how will this war end? Iranians believe that by keeping these attacks on US forces, Israel, and the GCC countries around the Arabian Gulf, US and Israel eventually will give up. That seems to be very naive belief. But as a country, as a government in power for past 47 years, are they that gullible? They are. They are because they are blinded by that Shia religion. In Shia religion, that 90% of its belief system comes from one insurgency incident that one of their imam, Hussein, he started a insurgency operation against the empire of that time with a small group of followers. He marched to the capital to topple that government. That empire sent his army and told them very nicely and politely, this is not a good idea. Go back, go home. He refused. And then they asked him to surrender. He said he'd rather die than surrender. He said, dying with honor is much better than surrender. He will never surrender. He'd rather die. That is the majority of Shia religion, belief and life and purpose comes from that event. So Iranian regime right now would rather go down and take the whole country with them than surrender. That is the whole purpose, unless if there are some reasonable leaders within the regime that force the major decision makers in the regime to decide otherwise. And it happened before. During Iran-Iraq war, the Iranian leader of that time, Khomeini, continued the war for 8 years. That war could have ended in its second year, but he insisted he was going to fight on and he is going to win the war. But after 8 years, his military commanders went to him and said, we are not winning this war, we are going to lose this war. And then he agreed to a ceasefire. But still, that wasn't a surrender. They were still in power. They were still had their country without any change in the borders. So they agreed to it, and that they were able to depict the picture that they didn't lose, they won. So in this war, they will not be able to depict that picture. And US and Israel will not and should not stop it or give up or give in. That would be suicidal for US and Israel. Because after all of this, if you come to a ceasefire, if you give up and stop, they will be emboldened and rewarded for this 47 years of war in shadows against Israel and US, and causing all of this war and chaos, attacking its neighbors, closing the Strait of Hormuz, creating this economic global crisis and global security crisis. After all of this, you give in, you give up. That means you reward them. That sets an example for any other dictator regimes, terroristic regimes. That would be extremely, extremely dangerous for the future if US and Israel gives in or gives up at this point. From now on, the only way out of this is to force them to to force them to a ceasefire that a strong conditions that remove all of their military power, their missile and drone capabilities. From now on, Iranians proved that they should never have drones, missiles, and nuclear program. If the Israel and US had worries about them, if they were concerned about those programs, Iran's weapons programs, this war proved that US and Israel shouldn't be worried. They should be terrified. And as a result, from now on, the Iranian government, even if the government changes to something else, they should never have access to these weapons because they proved that they don't deserve it, they shouldn't have it. So at this point, there's no return from this. The only way out of it, either a ceasefire that Iranians agree to mechanisms that remove all of their drones, missiles, and nuclear capabilities, or you keep pounding them until the regime collapses or their military capability is destroyed 100%. Destroying the military capability 100% will be almost impossible because look, Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel has been pounding them for decades, but right now they are firing rockets and missiles. So Iranian military capability will be reduced to something like Hezbollah. They will be able to build some rockets and some rudimentary missiles, but nothing else. So right now, you see it is messy. It will get messier. Before it gets better, it will get really, really bad. So now, US has to open the Strait of Hormuz, and soon to be called Trump Strait. US has to open the Trump Strait, and that will require a lot of military force and perhaps a coalition of other countries. That strait has to be opened. And if Iranian doesn't open, President Trump said he's going to strike their energy infrastructure. And then if Iran retaliates as it promised, it's going to look really, really ugly. But all of these damages Iran is causing by the strike in the neighboring countries, these are reversible very quickly. But who's going to pay for it? Iran should pay for it. And if this war continues like this, and Iran's military capability is degraded on a daily basis now, US will be able to take the Kharg Island and should definitely take Strait of Hormuz or Trump Strait. And there are three islands around the Kharg, and UAE has been claiming them for the past 100 years. They will be able to take those, and 90% of Iranian oil and gas comes from the Kharg Island. Once US takes that island, and US takes the Strait of Hormuz or Trump Strait, those will pay the cost of this war to US, Israel, and the neighboring countries very quickly. A couple of years, it will pay all the costs. It will renew and repair all the damages Iranians caused. And once US controls this island and Strait of Hormuz, Iranians will not have money even to build one rocket like Hezbollah. Iran will be poor like Somalia and Nigeria. And do they deserve that? Perhaps. Iranian people, the only people we see on the streets are the regime supporters. And the opposition are sitting in their home and waiting for US and Israel to make it extremely safe for them to come out. See, Syrians didn't. Syrians didn't wait for an Israel to make it safe for them. They were armed and they were fighting for over 10 years. And finally, they got their country back. But Iranians are not fighters. They are waiting. Iranians have always been waiting for external help. The Shia religion, the regime loyalists and supporters, they've been waiting for their savior, Mehdi, to come and make the world better for them. Make it yourself. Why are you waiting for an external force? And now anti-regime supporters, they're also waiting for external supports, not Mehdi, but US and Israel. I've always said Iranians are living in the past and in a far future, never in present. Every year, in 1 month, they commemorate and cry for that their Imam Hussein's insurgency attack in which he got killed, all of his family. They're crying for him, for what happened for him 1400 years ago. And they are waiting for Mehdi in future to come and rescue them, make the world better for them. But not in present. They don't care what's happening to them right now. So it is that again stems from that Shia culture and religion. But in summary, this war cannot stop at this point. You cannot reward Iran by stopping or giving in. But if Iran is capable to continue to cause all of this security and economic crisis in the world, if this goes on for a few more months, what do you do? The world economy could go into a very deep recession. Nobody can afford that. So will US and Israel consider the nuclear option? Japanese weren't given up until that nuclear attack. So will US consider that? Israel consider that? That needs to be seen, but nobody wants to see that. Hope that will not happen. But imagine if Iranians keep this pressure on world economy, continue increasing the world economy crisis and security crisis, the only way out of it might be the nuclear option. Because either Iran is going down or they take the whole world with them down. And if you stop right now, they are going to continue holding the world hostage. 20, 30 years from now, we're going to back to this again. So if this continues like this, Iranians create this economic and security crisis in the world, eventually the only thing that will stop this will be the nuclear option. Hope that doesn't happen, but that might be inevitable. God bless America, and God bless the free world. Once and if this operation against Iran succeeds, after all of this is over, the world will be a much safer and much better place.